Now, live from Studio 550, this is The McGraw Show on KTRS.
Tomorrow you might go to the polls and they'll give you a ballot, and on the ballot you might be asked to vote for one of our next two guests, either Jane Cunningham or Cole McNary. Both are running for the Monarch Fire Board, and it runs through Creve Coeur, Wildwood, Chesterfield, Baldwin. It's a very big fire district. Jane Cunningham and Cole McNary here for a couple minutes. Jane and Cole, thank you for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Good to be with you.
Is this the first time you guys have done something like this in the campaign, sort of a point-counterpoint, I guess?
Yes, it is.
All right, good. So we have a chance to do this 24 hours before the election. First, this is a contentious race, probably the most attention this race has ever got. Jane, I want you to say something nice about Cole to start off.
We've been colleagues in the legislature.
That's it? Anything else?
We've worked together in the legislature on bills. We probably have a very similar voting record.
Cole, why don't you say something nice about Jane?
Well, I don't think there's any question that Jane is passionate about politics. We have worked together in the legislature.
All right.
I can add something to that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Because I think it's pertinent. When you're in the legislature, your colleagues know you well, and I'm the only candidate that has endorsements from our colleagues.
Okay.
I suppose that would be meaningful if you thought that this should be a partisan race, which it isn't.
All right. I think I need a sweater in here. It just got a little cold. All right. Speaking of people who endorse people, there is somebody who sits on the board, Steve Swires. Is that how you say the man?
Swires.
Yes.
Swires. He's a board member. You will be the winner of this race. Will be serving with this Steve Swires on the board. Correct.
Right.
And he has endorsed you, Cole McNary. Is that correct?
That is true.
All right. He wrote in Patch recently, and Jane, this is to you. Says Jane Cunningham, this is according to the other board member in Patch, says Jane Cunningham falsely claims that she led the effort to convince the board to rescind the recent record-setting $1 million tax increase on homeowners. It is unfortunate she, meaning you, Jane, is trying to make headlines and take credit for the board's work. This is exactly the type of politics that have plagued the Monarch Fire Board in the past. Jane, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would. First, I am reading from an article here by the St. Louis Today, so Post-Dispatch, that says that Swires was backed by the union, so he is a union-backed candidate on the board. That's critical. Number two, I'm also reading from the West News Magazine, the reporter that was there. He says in here that Swires did propose and vote for a tax increase, and the very next public board meeting, he says Monarch Fire Protection District rescinds tax increase in a stunning reversal. He credited me with leading taxpayers who were very upset about the hike and then causing a reversal to happen. Now, those aren't my words. Those are a reporter who was objective that covered the situation.
Cole, would you like to respond?
Sure. The reporter got the story wrong. I mean, there's no question that Jane didn't have anything to do with any kind of tax increase being rescinded. Swires admitted, I think I made a mistake. And then you need to know the whole story, which is that through assessments, the district was down $900,000, and you had to make it up. So the question is, do you raise the levy or not? In the next week, Swires is the one who makes all the cuts. He gets the union to freeze their pay for a 3-year period. Everything that he's done has basically been providing the same level of service at lower cost. And then at the meeting the next week that Jane came and berated Steve at, she didn't have anything to do with it. It was already on the agenda to not raise the levy. But the heavy lifting was Swires. All of it was Swires. He found the cuts. Jane didn't have anything to do with it. Although there were some citizens who showed up and they voiced their concerns, and I appreciate that they did that.
Jane, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, I said, were you there, Cole?
No, I wasn't there.
You haven't
Does it
been
make
to
any
any?
does it make any difference that you were there?
Yeah, I got to see what happened. And I might say that I've been attending and showing interest in this board for over a decade.
Yeah, I'll
And
take Jane
Mr.
at her
Excuse me
word.
just a minute.
Her-
And Mr. McNary, the first board meeting he went to was last week. So I was there. I saw it happen. Obviously, this is a reporter who's objective, and the other board member who was there did not know of any change between the week the hike happened and the week it was reversed, other than a lot of angry taxpayers came to express their displeasure.
Cole, I'll let you respond, and then I'm going to get to another question. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Cole. Do you want to
But,
respond to that?
I would just say that we were both at the last meeting, the one that I showed up for. We were both there.
I'm glad you
And
finally
all
came,
the
Cole.
and all the board members acknowledged Swire's account as being what happened. And since that time, Jane has continued to promote this idea that she's already saved taxpayers $1 million. It isn't true. She knows it isn't true, but she continues to say it. I just don't.
I was
it's not
there.
what-
It
it's not
happened.
what
It
I
was
look for
reported.
in my
Also-
elected officials.
Also, in this letter that Steve Swires wrote to the neighborhood, he writes, "Dear neighbor," he says, "in addition, the new board has reduced legal fees by 64%, maintained a balanced budget despite 5.3% decrease in revenue. Our revenues were nearly $18 million, but decreased by almost $1 million. They reduced sick leave by 38%. They decreased workers' comp. They lowered overtime pay. They adopted a new bidding process, and they hired a public education officer whose sole function it is to increase fire and EMT safety awareness." Sounds like they're doing the right things on the Monarch board. No, Jane?
Well, it depends on how you look at all that. Let's talk about work comp. I found out a couple years ago when I was in the Senate attending other fire board meetings that one of the worst work comp ratings in the entire area was Monarch. So it's pretty easy to improve it when you are one of the worst ones. Now, work comp is my area. I know it. It's my private sector job. We can really save money on work comp if we fix that. Let's talk about...
They're down 45% from 2010.
You can go a whole lot more than that from what I saw.
All right.
It's a real problem. Secondly, let's talk about sick leave. Well, if you reduce sick leave by just changing the definition of it and paying people if they don't take off, it's easy to reduce it. What they did is change the definition. Let's take some of the sick leave and make them personal days. Oh, well, if they're personal days, you don't even have to be sick to take off. We just have sick leave. Let's talk about how we did it. So I think there are some areas that dramatically need to be improved. And I don't remember all of them that you said because you rattled through a bunch of them.
Sure. All right. Cole, do you want to respond?
Yeah, my response is that Suarez has done an outstanding job. He's come in 2 years, balanced the budget, and provide all these reductions to make firefighters more productive, and Jane's against that.
No,
And she had been involved in the board claiming for the last 10 years. It's over those 10 years when the board hit rock bottom. I don't know why we'd want to go back there.
Jane, how are you going to work with this Swires on this board if you've been so critical of him during the campaign?
Well, he has been critical of me. I am used to that. I've been in public life for 12 years. We always fight out in the campaign, and then we get together and work together in the legislature. I've done it for 12 years. You just have to. It's part of the job. No problem.
Cole McNary, one of Jane Cunningham's big issues is that you are supported by the unions. I'll ask you here, how can you be supported by the unions and then have to sit on a board in which regulates their pay and their sick leave and their compensation and their pensions?
I just don't think it's just such a conflict. I mean, who could be against firefighters? These are first responders who tend to our needs in the community. We don't know when there's going to be an emergency. Why would we want to rail against them? So is it that hard to get their support? You know how I got it? They said, we want to meet with you, and all we want you to do is to listen to us. That's it? All we have to do is listen to you, and I get your support? Yeah, pretty much. It's just not that hard. But that's what separates Jane and I. She won't listen to him. Who wouldn't want to listen to the people that are providing the service?
Jane, have you sat with the firefighters union?
I have met with them, yes. I have not been invited by them to sit with them as a decision-making situation, but I think when you look at the situation, and this isn't just Monarch, it's going on out in Wentzville with Jim Penick, who's running out there, with Ed Ryan, who's running in Melville, trying to represent the public. When the union puts $100,000 into a candidate, they choose and they bring an army of volunteers.
$100,000?
Oh, yes. I've got it written here in Melville, $90,000 to the guy last time.
Oh, but I'm talking about this race here. They haven't given Cole McNary $100,000. They gave him like $1,000.
No, not yet. It doesn't happen until after the election is over and people can't see. He's got a $27,000 debt. You think the firefighters union is not going to pay for that? They will. And I have promised not to take any money from the union because I want to be independent and neutral and represent the public on that side of the bargaining table.
Cole?
Well, I don't think Jane could get their support even if she did want it. She's against the firefighters.
Are you against the firefighters, Jane Cunningham?
No, I am not against the firefighters. That's a ridiculous statement. I've been going for 10 years. I participated in their fire ops program to learn how they do their job. I mean, Mr. McNary wasn't there. He didn't go to the fire ops program to learn what their job was.
Would you like to give the firefighters a raise?
I think I need to look at what the salaries are. It's going to be fair and it's going to be reasonable. I feel like they need to be paid well but not overpaid.
Are they overpaid now?
I think we need to look at that. I'm not willing to say that yet.
So
I'm going
have
to
you
get
looked
the
at
information.
it? So you haven't looked at it then yet?
I have looked at the comparison of Monarch with some, like they get paid more than New York City, Chicago, Ladue, and the city of St. Louis for the same level. Now, do I want a broader study than that? Yes, I do, before I determine that, and I intend to do that.
A firefighter in the Monarch Fire District gets paid more than a New York City fireman?
Yes.
Is that true, Cole?
Well, I think it depends on what their level of training is. Firefighters in New York City might be trained to put out fires, but they're not necessarily paramedics, which requires more training than that.
Well, but again, if you're going to look at a 30-year veteran versus a rookie, maybe that might be. But when you're comparing apples to apples, a first-year firefighter in Monarch and a first-year firefighter in New York City, you're telling me, Jane, the guy in the Monarch fire departments paid more?
Yes. Absolutely. It's kind of shocking when you see that, but I think we want to do a thorough study and make sure we're fair.
Let me ask you this question. Outside of salaries and pensions, how can a budget, how can you cut money in a budget and still provide the same service?
I think there's several ways to do that. I mentioned workers' comp already. There are also the sick leave that we looked at that can be relooked at again. We've also got legal fees that have been continuing. The decisions that are made cause more legal fees. There are many places that we can look to save money in Monarch, and I've determined a number of those. The pensions right now, in a very unusual situation, the pensions have no contribution, none whatsoever, from the employees. That just doesn't even go on anymore in both public or private. And so we need to look at the pensions. Overtime. Right now it's been determined that to pay overtime, it is costing us more than hiring new people. And so we need to find more efficient ways to do that. It would also increase job for more firemen to be hired and save the taxpayers money at the same time.
Cole, would you like to respond to any of that?
Well, I think that you need to be on the board to be able to figure out how to balance the budget. Jane's cadre were on the they were on the board. They mismanaged it for a long, long time. They drove it into the ground. Monarch is the only district that makes headlines. It's the only one that you're going to have you're going to have a debate over. Well, I mean, they mismanaged it for a long period of time, and then Swires came on, and he's reversed everything. And now Jane wants to go back to that. It doesn't make any sense to me. So what I would say is you need to keep the politics off the board. It needs to be about what is right for the district. How do we provide the best service possible? And Jane's got it all figured out. She's really talking about let's just cut everything. And she's just trying to get people who live in a conservative area to say, we're going to cut everything. The service isn't going to happen to you. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I've got 30 seconds. the winner of this election, part of your compensation is health insurance. Will you be taking the health insurance portion of your compensation, Jane Cunningham?
No.
You will not?
No.
Cole, will you be taking the health insurance part of the compensation for this package?
I think that you buy it like anybody else does. You're
Well, it's part of a program, but I mean,
You're part of-
it's
would I-
subsidized.
Would I buy it like I do, like anybody does through their employer? I'd have to look at it.
Okay, you don't know. All right.
I don't.
I'm out of time. Jane Cunningham, Cole McNary, thank you for coming in. Best of luck tomorrow, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
9:52 KTRS, St. Louis.
This Monday, it's the biggest holiday on the St. Louis calendar. Opening Day. Need we say more?
Well, then who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
I'm asking you.
Join KTRS live from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the 360 Bar atop the Hilton at the ballpark downtown. Leading off for the KTRS team will be Steve Cochran in the Morning Quickie, followed by Martin Kilcoyne and Claire Callatin News.
Let's play ball.
So join us at the 360 Bar atop the Hilton at the ballpark downtown for the 2013 KTRS Opening Day broadcast from the Big 550 KTRS.
Listen up, ladies. Right now, Bare Minerals is inviting you to participate in a special nationwide giveaway of the mineral makeup everyone's talking about.